Hey guys, welcome to my live. All right, we're gonna wait just a few minutes for the connection to actually go through, and then my girl Allie is going to join us, and we're gonna talk about everything that we did wrong. So we're gonna give her a minute to join on, and we'll go from there. All right, I think you just have to request to participate, Allie. I don't see a setting coming through. There we go. What's up? Did I get you? Maybe. Hold, please.
Hey!
Oh, it worked!
Yay!
Gosh, last time I did a dual live with a girl, my internet was so slow, and
Yes.
I've moved. I have much better internet now, but the delay was just comical at some point. It was like the Chinese voiceovers where you'd say something and then your voice was like I couldn't even be serious. I was like, we're gonna have to talk about something not serious because I can't handle this.
Yeah, you're like, I don't think we're gonna be doing this right now. But yeah, no, I'm glad we're good.
Exactly. How's your day going?
Pretty good. It's super sunny here in Boston, so I was able to get outside and get some sun. I needed it.
I'm jealous. It has been rainy and crappy and gloomy here in Nashville. It kind of came out of nowhere, and I feel like we're in this weird pocket where they say it's an 80% chance of rain, and it doesn't rain. And then it's a 10% chance of rain. So you go on a walk and then it's instant, it unleashes hell when you're really far from your apartment. You're like, so this is good. Okay.
Great.
And I'm from the Midwest, but I've been in San Diego for the past 5 years. And so I'm used to it might rain for a grand total of 20 minutes the whole year.
Right.
So I don't check the weather ever because I'm so used to not. So I really need to start because I'm never dressed appropriately. I go outside, everyone's in tank tops, I'm in long sleeves. I go outside, I'm in tank tops, everyone else has rain jackets. I'm like, what did I miss?
That's so funny. Yeah, our weather is very much hit or miss. In the morning, it's really cold, and then it gets really hot, and then it's storming. It's just pick one, or it's 80 degrees today, and tomorrow it could be 40 degrees. It's I never know.
Yeah, I remember that in the Midwest. I was in Columbus, Ohio. You could never actually commit to putting your winter wardrobe away.
No.
Until it was mid-July. Because you're like, you know what? There's going to be another snow. I know
Exactly.
And it's going to happen right when I zip this up and put it in the back of my closet.
Exactly. Yeah. Super unpredictable.
Too funny. Well, I was hoping we could just start, just since I know we haven't done a joint live together, just a little bit of your background and history, a little bit of mine, and then we can just go into all the really stupid shit we did.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Yeah. So I basically am an online fitness coach Hannah, and I kind of got started because I was graduating college and I didn't want to go into corporate America. I was I do not want to do that for myself. I know that.
What did you study?
Nutritional sciences. So
very cool.
Yeah, I went to school for 4 years, and I always knew that I wanted to either, do exercise science or, nutritional science. So I went with nutritional science and went to school, got the degree, and I just was I don't feel called to be in a clinical setting or work for somebody else. I want to be my own boss. And I just kind of, obviously invested in business coaching and just kind of had to keep going and learn so many mistakes along the way, like with weight loss. But, it's all the same. Anything that you do in life, whether it's weight loss, relationships, business, there's so many stupid shit. There's so much stupid shit that you'll do that, you definitely didn't need to do. And this is honestly why I'm so stoked to be doing this live, because we can just get rid of all this crap and you guys don't have to waste your time doing what we did. And that's kind of what I teach my ladies, kind of giving them all of the information that they need so that they don't have to make all of these mistakes because it's just frustrating and it takes so much time.
Oh my gosh, I can totally relate. It's almost like when you're in it and you're making the mistakes, you're self-conscious about it. You don't want to talk about it because you're clearly the only one that's ever made that mistake and you're so stupid and how could you let that happen? And then looking back, you're like, wow, everyone did that same thing and it's actually hilarious.
Yeah.
In business where you're looking at old posts or things you talked about and you're like, oh, that was stupid. Nobody cared.
It's so cringy.
Nobody cared what I had for dinner that night.
Yeah, you're right. You do feel so alone, but like you're not alone. Like every other woman, I guarantee you, is either currently doing what you're doing or they've done it. Like we all go through that, and it can feel embarrassing, and it can feel like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. But like I encourage you, try to talk about it, because you're not as alone as you think. And maybe you can get some answers from like the people around you, or like us right here.
Exactly. It's just, finding that community. And, in my, so I went through school and I did go into a clinical setting. I went all the way through physical therapy school. I've been in outpatient orthopedics for years. And then I had my own really drastic weight loss journey. And it was with an online coach. I actually did it wrong the first time. I hired a coach without much screening. It was like a friend was using him or whatever, and we were not a good fit. Right. I did his program to a T. I think the one thing I did wrong is one night I had a square of Dove dark chocolate. One night in 18 weeks. And I didn't get the results that I was alluded to believe were I was expected. And his only feedback was, you must be cheating. I always get results. I was like, so we're not a good fit. That's cool.
My God.
And then I was upset. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let one D-bag who doesn't know what he's doing get in my way. And so I finally did it right. And then I started I was still seeing patients, but like in my personal life, I was getting asked so many questions about, how did I lose the weight? How have I not put it back on? How do I keep off the weight? And so I realized that I was I had a unique perspective having the education, but then walked the journey. Like I know how it feels to look in the mirror and feel certain emotions. And, when I was in the journey, I was very quiet about it. I just didn't really talk about it just because I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me. I did not care what you had to say, good or bad. Don't say it. I don't care. And so even when I was doing things wrong or struggling or doing things right, I never shared it. And now that I'm kind of on the other side of things, I just see like common topics that I'm addressing with my clients frequently. And then I'll talk about them on here about mistakes that I made using that kind of things. Like when I did this, I felt this way, which is why I did this. And the feedback is always like, I thought I was the only one. I was like, me too. Like 8 years ago, I did too.
Yeah. It's amazing that when we share those past experiences and like, this is how we felt, this is why we did it. Like, when you're Googling at like 3 a.m., like, how can I lose like 10 pounds in 2 weeks? Cause you're going on a vacation. Like I totally been there, like Googling late at night. And then I'm like, oh God, like this feels embarrassing. Like, why am I doing this? And I don't want to tell people. And now 5 years later, I'm like, no, I used to do that with no shame because that's how I felt. Those were the only ways that I could get some sort of results, because whenever you look at like magazines or, you're on like certain, people's pages on Instagram, they're always talking about like extremely rapid weight loss and like, drink this juice and you'll finally have abs, or like skinny protein. I'm like, okay, like, so of course that's what we believe because that's what, we're surrounded by. So I don't blame and hold anybody to a fault when, they kind of fall for these type of gimmicks, because how can you not? You have no idea what you're doing. So you see this, skinny tea, it's going to help you lose weight. Of course, you probably believe it, right?
And a celebrity that you admire from maybe even other reasons, they're like, well, they're doing it. And it's, there's no judgment. I'm like, give me your worst night and I can probably beat it.
Yeah.
But just with things I did, I'm like, screw Google. I would go down like Pinterest rabbit holes. I didn't even care if I liked what the recipe was. If it said skinny, light, low cal, low fat, low carb, pin, I probably wasted a solid like 6 years of my life pinning things that I'll never make. Ever. And it was just, you get down those rabbit holes. And then I started taking a turn for the worst when I would stay on social media, and I realized I was only following people that were only showing their highlight reels. I wasn't following real women. I wasn't following anyone who was giving me any education. No one who had walked the journey. I was just following these like, like fitness models, tan, sparkly, bam. Like that's all I saw all day. So I never made the connection that no one in real life looked like the people in my phone. I lived in my phone, and if I didn't look like that, I clearly wasn't healthy. And then it, like, one time it was just kind of like, it hit me. I'm like, oh no, that's not healthy in my phone. I did that wrong. I did that wrong. So I kind of purge social media. I even do it still time, like here and there, of if the account makes me feel empowered or motivated, or I'm getting something out of following you, I stay. But if I start feeling judgy, I mean, even as a coach, I mean, we can do it too. You know, you start seeing someone else and they like make you feel like not as good about yourself, and you're like, oh wow, I mean, I haven't really worked that out in a while. I'm like, nope, unfollow. Like, I just, it's so easy to start taking positive intentions and take them to a really negative place by accident, and you don't realize you do it until you look up and you have no idea how to get out.
For sure. And like, you know, I obviously, we love social media because that's how, you know, we connect with people, our clients. Like, this is what we're doing right now. Like, I love social media for this aspect, but it's so hard to not compare yourself to everybody's highlight reel. And like you, I was unaware that these were people's highlight reel. I was like, this is how they look all the time. Like,
I'm like, I don't look like that when I sit down.
Right.
What the hell?
Right. Yeah. I'm like, okay, so I'm wrong and I can't have pizza. Like, I see them eating pizza and like going out for drinks, and then they post this picture where they look lean, and I'm just like, you have abs, but you're eating all this food. Like, I don't get it. And it's, you know, I was following accounts that didn't take the time to explain, you know, this
how or why,
so,
or refeed.
Exactly. So I was like, oh, like, I just must be doing something wrong. So I should just cut out all of this food so that I can look like that. And then even when I did, I was like, I don't look like that. And it's like 90% of my day, I don't always look like the pictures that I post. Like, that's why sometimes on my story, I'll post like a picture of me like slouching, and I'll like show my stomach, because like, everybody, even if you're lean, you have stomach rolls, and like,
gonna happen.
Like, it's your body. There's organs in there. There's skin. Like, our bodies are so much better than just like having abs and being lean. Like, we do pretty cool things with our body. And so I try to also like be real and post like my reality. Like, I'm not always looking lean. Like, I'm bloated a lot of the time, or like I like have rolls when I sit, and it's like, let's show this so that we don't make people feel like they don't fit into our box of like what being fit is like.
Yeah, or even just healthy.
And healthy, yeah. That's also true.
I couldn't agree more. So do you feel like in kind of your own like weight loss journey, or just like your own fitness journey, that just being really restrictive was one of the biggest issues or biggest struggles that, or mistakes, I guess, that you had made?
Yeah, I would say I guess the mistake around that was, I would basically be really clean and perfect like Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday would come and I would go balls to the walls, like drinking so much, like eating all of this food, because I thought it doesn't matter. If you're perfect for a majority of the week, it doesn't matter what you do on the weekends. And it's like, it actually does matter. And this is probably,
throw down on the weekends.
Exactly. And like, this is the reason probably why you're not, you know, making that progress, because you're restricting so much during the week, and then on the weekends you just can't do it anymore. You want to have that social life, and your body is just craving that food. So yeah, I would definitely say restriction was a huge mistake that I made. And I started to like view like anything that like wasn't a vegetable or a protein source, I would say, oh, that's bad. Like, potatoes, rice, I was like, oh no, those are bad. I can't have those. And like, it started to get to a point where it was like, okay, apples have a lot of carbs, so I should avoid apples. And it's like,
and we all played the like, oh, I don't do bananas. No,
right.
No, wait, like, no, that way too much carb.
Right. And
played
now,
that game.
Yeah, and it was a point where it was like, you're looking at an apple or a banana or like carrots as having too many carbs. Like, that's not okay, because those are fruits and vegetables, and those are the things we should want to focus on eating, because of, you know, all of the vitamins and minerals. And even as a nutritional science major, like, I knew the stuff, but I was just like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Like, I should just restrict, and that's what's going to work for me. It's, yeah.
Yeah, even as like a professional in the field, it's hard to separate your emotion from logic. That's why I have coaches. And it's just like, even though you're educated on it, even as, you know, in the field of physical therapy, like, we get an injury, and the first thing you want to do is what you would do with the patient times 50. You want to over-treat yourself, which is the dumbest thing. And so then you need like your colleagues like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Because you do want to like feel like the rules don't apply to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And I was one where I never really, what, especially once I like figured out what macros were, and I do a lot of this work with my clients, is teaching how to kind of eat them spaced throughout the day, listening to your hunger cues. If like you're a big breakfast person, you should have a bigger breakfast and maybe put a workout closer to that. If you're not really a lunch person, that's okay. Let's find something small just so you don't get hangry come dinner time. So
yeah,
I completely stopped listening to hunger cues, and what I would try and do is pretty much eat as little as I could all day so I could have a dessert the size of my head. So it was basically, I was still being healthy because I was meeting my macros, but I was basically doing it to do a controlled binge every night.
Yeah.
And if the day didn't go as planned, I was the one of like, I wasn't perfect. So it wasn't the weekend that derailed me. It was if I was like 2 grams over on fat, the whole day was ruined. Peanut butter jar, spoon, game on. It was like mine was just a really, I took it to a very black and white place.
Sure.
But like hiding behind the fact of like I'm meeting my macros, and had completely just stepped away from hunger cues and being able to eat anything without consulting my phone first. I lost that ability, and I really challenge my clients now, especially in like social gatherings, to listen to hunger cues. And especially because I think something that's really lost in macro trackers is you don't have to finish your plate.
Yep.
If you are not hungry, it's like you weighed it, you measured it, you eat that. And most of the time you do, because you know about what you need to feel full. Like, do I need an 8-ounce portion of chicken? God, no. Like, no. I know, like 4 to 6, somewhere there's going to be fine. Like, you kind of, the more you do it, the more you can gear it toward your needs. But you're so used to finishing your plate that even like when I would go out to eat and look up the nutritional information, if the entire dish was not like a whole macro friendly thing, I didn't even consider it because I couldn't finish the plate. And I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could eat half of that. Like that never even clicked for probably 4 years into macro tracking. And like that's something like I challenge clients. I'm like, if you're not hungry, don't stuff yourself. Like it's all gonna work out in the end. Like you gotta have to have like a fluid, chill out a little. Don't chase the blueberry off the scale that hit the floor. No, it's okay. It was a bloob. Let it go. Roll away. Like,
that's another great point that you made up, or that you brought up. That was a mistake that I was making. You know, when I first figured out what macro tracking was like 5 years ago, it wasn't as popular as it is now. But
what's that? Is it?
Like
I thought it was if it fits your mouth. I was like, I can get down with that diet.
Yeah, I was like, what is it? And I was just like confused. And then I was like, oh, like this makes sense. And I would get into that headspace of I have to eat all of my food. Like this is what I tracked. I have to eat my entire plate. And then sometimes I would be so full, I would have like such bad digestion. Like I would just feel sick to my stomach because I overstuffed myself. And that's, again, something that, like you said, I do with my ladies. I'm like, you know, just because you have your whole plate planned out, it doesn't mean like if you're full, you have to finish it. Like maybe save it for later, or, you know, we can kind of finesse the numbers and subtract it a little bit. But this is not supposed to be perfect, because life is not perfect. If you try to do anything to perfection, you are going to fail. Like just point blank, it's going to happen. So I try to teach them like macro tracking is a great tool for us, but it's not, you know, we're not living by, you know, it's not the letter of the law. Like we're not hitting our number 0, 0, 0. And if we don't hit zeros, we're not perfect and we screwed up the day. But, you know, unfortunately, you know, we both felt very strongly that way. And I would say when you first start macro tracking, it's hard to not feel that way, right? Because it's like,
oh yeah,
the numbers and the data.
Yeah. It's like, it's one where I feel like at first it can be so empowering. Like when I started my own fitness journey, I was like, I get it. You know, chicken is probably better, like healthier than a burger.
Yeah.
Like egg whites are probably better breakfast than a donut or croissant and half the jar of peanut butter. Like I understood those concepts, but I was like, how much godforsaken chicken do I have to eat? And can I ever have a sweet potato fry again? I didn't understand how much of what.
Yeah.
And then learning it, it was so empowering that I loved it so much that it became an obsession. And like, that's what I really try and like make sure my clients don't take it so far, because it can go to a negative place unintentionally.
Yeah.
Where you just you eat, you live and die by that. And I have a couple clients right now who have been tracking for so long that my little bit more laxed approach, we're getting the results we want, but it's freaking them out.
Yeah.
That they're like, tell me what to do, and I'm like, no, you know the answer to the question. They're just like,
Yeah.
they're so mad that I'm not like, eat the blueberry or whatever. And at one of them, she's like, is so used to like, okay, I have this for breakfast, this for snack, this for lunch, or whatever. And if she's hungry after breakfast, but she doesn't want to have her snack too soon because then she has to wait longer for like she has them so spaced out throughout the day that God forbid there's hunger felt in between
Right.
when she would technically eat, because she's like, I shouldn't be hungry this soon. I just ate. I'm like, your body's still hungry, so feed it. Like just the other day, I had a huge post-workout meal because I was starving. So I have a half-hour drive back from the gym right now. And I mowed through it and I felt great. I showered and was like powering through some emails. Not even an hour and a half later, I was starving again. So I had lunch within an hour and a half of eating the biggest meal of my day, basically. I didn't think, oh my gosh, this isn't going to leave anything for later. I'm like, no, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat this now.
Right.
And that actually satisfied me to the point where I forgot about a snack I had planned for the afternoon. So I just chopped up that little protein bar and put it on my dessert and had a bigger dessert and enjoyed it. And it wasn't one of those where I have to stick to an eating schedule and ignore what my body's telling me. Like the app will never know your body better than you. And it's just so easy to ignore biofeedback when you feel like your phone knows more about you than you do.
Yeah, that's like, I feel like a really big thing that some of like my ladies also struggle with. They're like, well, if I eat now, then I can't have, you know, this later. Like this, you know, let's just say like they want to go to Chick-fil-A and really, you know, go.
Yeah, waffle fries.
And I'm like, yes, I love Chick-fil-A, but like if you're hungry, you know, it's not always the best idea to like backlog so many calories, because then, you know, you're kind of in a position where, you know, you're going to be starving all day long. And then, you know, once you eat that Chick-fil-A, that might not satisfy you, because just because it's high calories doesn't mean it's always going to be filling. So
might be very low volume.
Exactly. Yeah. I try to, which you're like, I feel like you talk about this a lot, like you're a volume queen, like with, when like your zucchini oats, and like, I feel like you're always talking about it. And I like, it's great because we need to also understand that like, just because something is like high calories and it's going to help us hit our macros, it's usually very low volume, like candy or like a milkshake or something like that, like high calories, but you're going to be hungry very shortly. So that's where we come in with this balance, which I didn't understand balance. I was like, okay, so I can either have pizza or I can't have pizza. But it's like, no, I can have pizza, but maybe I'm going to make some grilled chicken and I'm going to have some veggies. And like, that's my whole meal. And like,
yeah, like a big salad with it.
Yeah.
Have one or two slices. It's not like none or the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, because we get into that all or nothing mindset. It's like we're either going to eat this whole pizza or we're just going to have our pathetic little salad and feel bad for ourselves. And it's like, nah, like you can have some of the pizza and you can also make like a really delicious salad. And it takes a little bit of effort, which is, I feel like we get a little lazy. We're like, oh, that's kind of a lot of effort. Like, do I want to? I can just order out. And it's like, girl, like take the time to just put a little like love into your food, make a little salad, enjoy your pizza, and like you have the best of both worlds, and you're still hitting your macros, you're feeling satisfied, and you know, you're not feeling that restriction, because I think that restriction and not knowing how to balance it out is the worst part of it, because you're like, can I have a normal life and actually reach my goals?
Like, can I have a glass of wine? Actually, like kind of what you talked about is, you know, like putting a lot of calories into one meal that day, even though it meets the macros. I actually had a huge story on this on Memorial Day. People call it like, you know, macro hoarding or macro saving, where you have a higher, I'm like, that's a great idea to save some more extra calories if you have a special event, but there's a fine line between saving some more carbs and fat and then just fasting or starving all day.
Yeah.
And then you get to that point where you saved all those calories. You are so hungry. There's no stopping you.
Right.
You're just going to way overshoot. So it's like one of those where it's that you can take it so far, and it's like, okay, well, let's think about what's going to be at the event. Probably like if it's pizza, you know, it's going to be high carb, high fat, probably not a ton of lean protein, Veggies are probably going to be sparse. So that day leading up to it, don't starve, but prioritize lean protein and veggies. So you do have more carbs and fats to play with, but you don't need to just completely not eat and make your life a giant suck fest because
Right.
like contrary to what I used to thought, like I used to think like the harder it was, I wore it like a badge of pride. I'm like, no, actually this does not have to suck. I think I got an email the other day. She was like, this is not as hard as I was thinking it was going to be. I'm like, that's the whole point.
Right. Yeah.
If you feel like that now, you can sustain it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just waiting for it to end, you're gonna put the weight back on. It's not if, it's just when.
It's when. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. And I like the way that you said it. Like you shouldn't feel like, you know, you're hating every minute of it, and you shouldn't be waiting for it to end, because, you know, if you are feeling like that, then you're right. You will put the weight back on because it's not sustainable. And I think what you said about, you know, macro hoarding and kind of macro saving, like, it's important to understand. And I see a lot of people actually that I follow, they'll kind of be like, okay, so I'm just like, I have this event later, I'm doing this dinner later, so I'm just going to hold off my first meal till 2 p.m. And I'm like, that's great and all, but like, you can also like have just like lean sources of protein and some fruit and maybe some Greek yogurt. And like, there are options to save carbs and fats, because usually that's what's in these special fun meals that we want. You can have, you know, a Greek yogurt bowl with some fruit. You can, you know, have
grilled
a
chicken
protein
salad,
shake, egg white salad. Like, there's so many options, and I kind of get irritated. I'm like, why? Like, aren't you going to be hungry? Like, if I don't wake up and eat within like 2 hours, I'm a jerk. Like, no one wants to talk to me. Like, I'm so unpleasant. And like, even on those days where, you know, I want to save a little bit of extra carbs and fats, maybe to have a drink or to go out to dinner or something, you know, I will, like you said, just prioritize, you know, my protein and, you know, some veggies and some other, you know, lower calorie options that, you know, are more nutrient dense, like fruits and veggies. But I don't deprive myself the whole day, because it ends in disaster. Like, you get to that meal and like, you have the one glass of wine and you're like, oh, fuck it. Like, I'll just have this whole bottle because I'm so hungry and I just don't even care what I eat anymore. Like, it goes really bad.
Oh, I've been there. Or like, you get to an event and, you know, you have one glass of wine, or I love like, you know, a glass of champagne, so I'll save some carbs.
Yeah.
Get there, half a glass in, I'm like, woo!
Yeah.
I know, Josh, like my husband's like, time to go. Oh, let's say bye to everybody. I'm like, bye everybody. Like, it just it never goes really like you want. And like, I don't have kids, and before we leave, my husband always knows to look at me. He's like, did you bring snacks? Because he knows I am a miserable human. Miserable, and he doesn't want to deal with me. And he's like, I have enough snacks for a family of 7 on me at every moment. I'm like, what are you in the mood for? Like, it's just, you have to know what works for you 100% of the time. And I was talking to a client recently, so I'm like, yes, you know, if I'm gonna have, you know, champagne, marg, whatever, like, have a great drink, like, do that. But you just need to plan ahead. You need to make sure you are meeting your fiber goals. If you are eating more carbs in like a carb cycle on a weekend, that's not an excuse to just slam beers all freaking day. Like, you want to use the right things, like, when you can. So kind of, I read this in a book, and it was talking about macro tracking. It's like, you can eat and drink whatever you want, usually just not as much as you want.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was like a good way to put it. And I loved how you were talking about, you know, eat, like, put forth a little effort. That's the thing is, you know, people just like, oh, it's easier to just order out, or it's easier to just do what everyone else is doing. I'm like, would you take 5 minutes to feel great about yourself? Like, if you're someone who always has to have your makeup done, would you even dream of like leaving before you had your mascara on? This is coming from someone with no makeup on, but
same.
But I'm like, I don't remember even how to put it on, what order. I'm going to need to do a tutorial at some point on, like, look up something, because I don't remember how. But it's like, you know, if you're going to go out and try and look nice, you would put forth a little time and effort into yourself. And like, if you had like a really nice outfit, you're going to maybe put a little more time and effort into your hair. If you're trying to make your body look or feel a certain way, why wouldn't you put a little more time and effort to one of the main things that's going to make that happen?
Yeah.
We're just such in like instant click here now, Amazon Prime, have it now, buy it now, all this. Like, it's just, we start attributing that to every aspect of our life. And when, God forbid, like, you and I are like, no, it actually, you do have to put forth some effort. It's like, oh, what?
Right. Yeah. People, I think they get like thrown off by the fact that like you can't just eat shit all day long. Like just because you hire a coach does not mean that you are going to get results. Like we can give you the plan, the support, the accountability, but you have to put some effort into it. And like,
you know, show up.
Right, exactly. Like, and you know what you said about like in the book that you read, like you can eat basically whatever you want, maybe just not how much you want. You know, like it's true. And like you have to be an adult at some point. Do I want to eat pizza and drink skinny margaritas all day long? Hell fucking yes. But like
every day.
I have a job. I have a life. Like I don't necessarily want to look the way that that's going to turn my body into. And like that's being an adult. Like sometimes you just have to say like fuck it and like grow up and be okay with it. But that doesn't mean that you can't have like pizza Fridays or enjoy a margarita, you know, a couple times a week or whatever. Like you can make it work. But again, you just can't get into this like greedy mindset of like, oh, I can only have 2 slices of pizza. Like what the hell? It's like you get to enjoy that with other things, or you get to enjoy a drink. And it's like, you don't need to get fucked up every time you drink. Like,
yeah, in college we might have had a different conversation.
Oh, totally. But like, you know, I mean, that it's just it's about and you know, I'm like coming from like a 23-year-old. Like, would I like to like party and like rage and drink all the time? Like hell yeah. But I also have certain goals, so I just make it fit within my lifestyle. And like my ladies know this, like I usually have like a skinny margarita a couple times a week or a glass of wine or something, and it's just something that like I like to fit into my lifestyle, but I always make it work. And the thing is, I plan a snack with my drink, because if I get a little drunk or a little tipsy, I'm like, ooh, I want food. So I'll like pre-track a little something, and it allows me to hit my goals. Then I'm not raiding the pantry and I feel satisfied. Versus if you like, let's just say somebody planned, you know, 3 glasses of wine and that's like 90 carbs and that's all they had left. And they were like, oh, I'm just gonna have the wine and it's all right. I'll have the willpower to not eat the food. You're going to eat the food. All right.
Oh,
like, you're going to
every time.
Every single time.
After 3 glasses of wine, I'm going to eat it with you. No judgment.
No, we're doing it. Yeah. But it's just, it's hard to put that kind of responsibility on yourself when you're like tipsy. It's like, no, just plan in the snack, and then that way you can enjoy yourself, but you can also have your snack and feel happy. And then, you know, all together, you're proud of yourself because you were able to enjoy this fun little evening treat that was something that maybe before you thought you could never have, but you also stuck within your goals. And like, that's the beauty of like having this flexible relationship and like kind of being okay with the kind of, you know, your macros kind of flowing sometimes. Like maybe some days you're really great with your fiber, and then other days maybe you had the glass of wine, so fiber's a little bit lower, but you know, you make it up kind of in the weekly, like in a week. You know, I try and tell my ladies, like, don't get bogged down in like the day-to-day stuff. Like, let's look at what we're doing on a weekly basis, because, you know, one day is not going to make or break your progress. 1 week, however, could start to, you know, tip the scale one way or the other if you allow it to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like you're looking for trends over time. It's like it's not that one time that you went for the donut at work. It's if you do it every time. That's a habit. That's a trend. It's it's like taking away those like singular moments, taking away the power of those, and just being able to look at things from an external perspective, which is sometimes nice having the coach because you have eyes that they don't have. But I really liked what you said about mindset of like, oh, I can't have more than 2 slices of pizza. Or I can't have this. A lot of my girls and I work on just like language and mindset and kind of like word association, instead of like, I can't eat that. It's I choose to have this because it's going to fill me up more. Or that does sound good, but I'm choosing this because it will make me feel better. Or I am choosing to not have as much pizza as I want because I'm putting on my adult pants and I know right now this immediate temptation pales in comparison to how much I want that goal.
Exactly.
So I get to choose, I want, instead of I can't, I have to, I wish, like you can completely change your mindset around the entire process with a very few simple words. If you are determined to make it suck, it will.
Yeah.
And if you make it sound restrictive, it eventually will feel restrictive. And if you just change your mindset to more of abundance of I get to choose this instead of this, or some days it is choosing the wine and marg over the fiber whatever, like it's, you have a choice in the matter. No one is shoving the food into your mouth, no one's pouring the drink down your throat. I mean, if they are, you might want to call for help at this point. I'm not really sure how you get there, but it's one of those where you have a choice in the matter. Who cares what your coach said? Oh, I can't have that, my coach said I can't eat that, or it wouldn't meet my macros. But then you are choosing to stay in your nutrition program. No one's You can do whatever you like. My husband was always good, and I'm like, I don't want to go to work in the morning, blah. I always would do that, and he was like, well, you don't have to. And I'm like, of course I have to go to work. He's like, actually you don't, you have a choice. And I was like,
right,
damn it, I'm going to work.
I'm still going, but no, it's true. You're right. Like that mindset is everything, because how many times have I said, or we've heard people around us say, oh, I can't have that, it's not in my diet. It's like, okay, but you can.
It just slips out sometimes. You
totally does.
Yourself.
Totally. And I think that when we look at it as more of like abundance, like, oh, I'm choosing to not, because I actually want to, have maybe a drink instead of the second slice of pizza, or you'd rather just stick with more nutrient dense options. Like sometimes I don't want to have the pizza or the drinks, like I just feel good, so I'm like, you know what, I don't need it today. And it's not coming from a place of, if I eat that, I've effed up my plan. It's just, I don't want it today, but I might have it tomorrow, and that's okay, because you're an adult and you're making a choice, and you're not having anybody feel bad for you. Like I love the way that you framed that, because the mindset is everything around your food. Like you said it best. If you're determined to make it suck and make it restrictive and make it horrible, it will absolutely be. Like it can so easily be that way, but it can also so easily be amazing and freedom. But you have to put work into that side, where sometimes we forget that we have to put in the work, and we don't want to. We get a little lazy, so we kind of go over here. And you're human. Like I've been there. I'm sure you've been there. Like it happens.
Oh yeah, it's easy to be the negative Nancy. Someone says something, a little snarky at work. Everyone has something to say. Someone's like, who's having a great day? Crickets. You're like, nobody?
Yeah.
It's hard to be positive sometimes, but going back, I really like what you said about, sometimes it's, I am choosing to not drink for no reason other than I just don't feel like it. Where like, let's say I had two, vodka sodas planned or something, and I had both and I feel great. Like not a big deal. If I had two planned and I had one and then I felt like I was done drinking, I have no obligation to have the other one just because I logged it. If I was going to go home and have a dessert, maybe I'll just make up the carbs there. Or if I had to, and it was a great evening out, great conversation, and I decided to have a third drink, that's on me. I can have the drink, realize the entire day is not lost. It's not a green light to eat everything in sight and stop at Taco Bell on the way home. And you didn't ruin anything. But if maybe, you did that habit a couple times, like you said, even a week can start tipping the scales a little bit. It's just putting those adult pants on and saying, you know what, I did make some decisions this past week that weren't right in line with my goals.
Yep.
But I made them because I wanted to, and I wouldn't change it. Moving forward, I think I might want to sharpen things up a little bit. There's no woe is me, I effed everything up. It's a choice. It's always moving forward, and you can waste so much time beating yourself up.
Yeah. And I really love how you said that, because I think sometimes, we as coaches will almost forget to remind our clients of that. Like it's okay if you're also choosing to have that extra drink because you're out, you're having a good time. Like just this past weekend, like I definitely was more into kind of intuitively eating, and I was kind of focused more on, just having fun, enjoying the weather. And so I didn't necessarily follow my coach's protocol, but I also told her, I was like, you know what? I honestly was just having a great time this weekend. For like 2 days, I kind of went off the handle, but I'm not mad about it because I'm a little bloated. I'm okay with
You
that.
own
But
it.
I had a good time and I'm right back to what I want to do. And it's that language. Like, we're taking responsibility, and it's a good thing, because most of the time when you do those things, you are enjoying yourself, and it's also okay because you're having a human moment. But just don't blame anybody else for your human moment. Like, don't all of a sudden get mad and be like, I'm not seeing results. And it's like, you know exactly why your weight maybe went up, or you're feeling bloated. Like, you kind of went off the deep end, and that's okay. But just don't blame anybody else for your decisions, and be happy with your decisions, because you're usually doing it for a reason. And if it's something that you're doing consistently, maybe it's time to reevaluate what your goals are, because people a lot of the time think they want to diet, and maybe they don't actually want to diet. They just feel pressured to diet because everybody around them is. It's something that I've seen with a lot of like my clients early on, and we've had to reassess because they could not be adherent, and it's because they didn't actually want it. They just kind of felt like, I have to do this.
I agree. And it's one of those where I do a pretty, I don't want to say hard, but I do a challenging screening phone call for like onboarding clients. Is I'm going to ask you questions that might be hard to answer, like really specifically what you're looking for, because my job is not to tell you your goals. I will never assume you want to lose weight, you have to lose weight. I assume nothing unless you tell me something. Then it becomes my business and my goal as well. But if you don't know what you want, how the hell am I supposed to get you there? It's like turning on your GPS, but never putting in a destination and getting pissed at the GPS when you didn't get where you're supposed to go. Like, well, I didn't know. So like I ask those really hard questions. And like you said, like sometimes it's, you actually just don't want to diet. Or, you did have like a 4-day bender on the weekend, and then you come back, you're like, why am I not seeing progress? I'm like, well, look what we just did. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm like, we just need to reevaluate what matters. And I'll pull out quotes. I'm like, on the call, you said this was written on your questionnaire. I'm like, did we meet those goals? Are they still the same? And they're like, I said that, didn't I? Like, I just want to know where you are.
Right.
Just so I can help again. If we could take a detour. Maybe we were going to Philly, but we saw Starbucks. And we can eventually get back on track. It's just one of those where it has to be a fluid process. There is no straight line anywhere.
No, absolutely not. And I think that's what people also need to be reminded of. Like, when I first started, I had in my head this straight line of, this is where I'm going, this is how I'm going to get there.
Oh, yeah.
And in reality, it's messy. Like, you are all over the place, and like it's stressful. But if you can understand that that's kind of part of the process, then it becomes a little bit easier to navigate. And especially if you're not like working with a coach, it can definitely be frustrating to see these ups and downs. But if you're reminded that this is supposed to happen, because again, we're not perfect, we're not looking for perfection, it's about consistency. And maybe some months you're really on point, and then other months maybe you're having fucking stress in your marriage or in your job, or like life happens, and then you can't necessarily adhere to your diet as well. Like, that's also okay. But 20-year-old, 19-year-old Allie was like, no, that's not okay. Like, there should never be an excuse for why I can't be perfect. And it's like, give yourself a fucking break. Like, what? Like, we're very hard on ourselves. And with dieting, that can be just really difficult to just get through, because we have these expectations.
I couldn't agree more. I was the same way. It's like, if I wasn't perfect, it wasn't that I was just letting life happen. There was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
You're right. It is so refreshing to be in a position where we can help teach these women. Like, our clients are just people who are following, learning, trying to figure some things out. Like, it's like you said, messy. There is going to be life. It's not a straight linear line. It's going to ping pong all over the place. But as long as you feel like you are slowly trudging towards where you're going to go, that's the entire point. And I know you and I had both put the little question box in our stories, and I feel like we've kind of just touched on most of them that came through. But one that we hadn't really touched on that I received was someone just wanted a little bit more specific advice on how to have a social life, like really enjoy spontaneous moments with her friends without completely foregoing her goals completely. So I kind of know what I would say to her, but I want to hear what you would say.
Right. Okay. So, like, when spontaneous things come up, it can be a bit stressful when you are tracking macros or you're tracking calories, because you maybe, let's say, you've pre-logged your entire day, like you feel really confident with what you're doing, but then all of a sudden your friend's like, hey, want to go to happy hour? Like, we've all been in quarantine. Who doesn't want to get out and be social? So my best advice would be to try to move around some of your meals. And, let's say maybe for dinner you were having a serving and a half of rice. Maybe just take out the rice completely and maybe put in another vegetable. So we're lowering the carbs to maybe give you the option to add in a drink or so. Another thing that I also remind my ladies of is, if you go over your calories by maybe 300 calories one day, it's not going to make or break your progress, but still try to track it. So even if, you couldn't move around your food completely, it is also okay to go over calories one day, but by tracking it, you're holding yourself to, oh, there. Do you hear me?
Are you there? Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry. Can
Yes.
you hear me? Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
So what I was saying is, even if you do go over, you're holding yourself to some standard of like, I'm only going to go over by 300 calories. And this way, I'm still having fun, but at the end of the week, I know that I did go up a little bit. So maybe I'm going to expect my weight to be up a little bit. And it is easier said than done to track while you go out and be social, but I think it's very beneficial so that you can understand I can still go out and do spontaneous things, but I want to keep myself accountable for it so that I don't completely, go off the deep end and just, say completely F it for the day. Like, I'm still having fun, enjoying my social life, enjoying the spontaneity, but still holding myself to, okay, we're going to be within a range of my calories, and it's okay that I'm going over, but I want to be in this range. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. I love the, and I do it too and recommend that to clients all the time. Like, yeah, if you were going to have, fish tacos or something, maybe forego the tortilla, eat all the insides. Like, if you're going to add on a couple drinks, maybe take away the carbs from somewhere. Or sometimes I just do tell clients, I'm like, you know what, one day not tracking, sometimes you just need it for mental health. Don't even try and guess. And I really lay on hunger cues. I'm like, all right, if 0 is you would eat your best friend and not even feel bad about it, and 10 out of 10, your Thanksgiving, I can't even breathe, like turkey's coming out of my eyeballs full. I'm like, don't let yourself get lower than a 3, because sometimes there is a point of no return where then you just can't stop eating. But stop eating at like a 7. Wait for that delay to kick in. Listen to your hunger cues. If you want a drink, have a drink. Don't get one just because everyone else is ordering them. But something that I just, when I got asked the question, it just reminded me of when I was kind of going through this myself, is I encourage people to, I don't talk about things if you don't want to, but share your goals with your friends, not from a place of they need to tell you like, you don't need to lose weight. I'm like, that's nice, but that is not helping the situation at all when people say that. But I'm like, you know what, you might be able to say, hey guys, I am working really, really hard, but I definitely still want to hang out. If we do like a wine night, can it be at my place? You can control your beverages. You can control the food that's served. Or like, hey, can I know where we're going in advance so I can plan ahead? But just being open with them that you're working on goals. You don't have to ask them to understand. You can say, I don't really want to talk about it. Or I'm going to go and just maybe have a Diet Coke or, a seltzer water and enjoy the time. I'm not pregnant. I just have goals. So you don't have to eat or drink what's there if you don't want to.
Yeah.
And telling them why. Leaving, just not saying anything, not even acknowledging if your habits are changing or if you're acting kind of funny in the situations without any context, people will start to worry about you.
Right.
And you can invite them into the conversation, be like, you know what, when we have our get-togethers, a little heads up would really, really help reduce my stress around these things. Or can it be at my place? Or, can I be in charge of the main dish? Or I'm going to bring my own thing. If you don't mind, no disrespect, you make the best, whatever. But just, if you almost include people in the conversation, it takes away the stress of having to hide it.
Yeah. Because I think that's a great point, because you're you're not maybe intentionally trying to hide it, but you're like, oh, I don't want to explain it to my friends.
Or you're doing this constantly on your phone. Like,
yeah.
It's like macro Tetris.
Yeah, literally. And they're like, what are you doing? Why are you not paying attention? Like, and people can start to make assumptions. So opening that conversation, just being like, hey, like, this is kind of what I'm doing. And like, be open with them. You don't have to share every single thing. You're not looking for validation. You're just saying, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And, in my experience, my friends, whenever I am open about it, they're great about it. And they're like, oh, like, do you want to is there a type of wine like that's better to have? Or like
people offer to help more than you think.
Yeah, they totally do. And like,
absolutely.
People, they don't, I
what
guess
would
they
you
don't
like
mean
for
to
dinner?
Yeah. Yes.
They want to, because they want you to be there.
Right.
But they want you to be happy that you're there.
Yeah. Nobody wants, especially your friends, they don't want you to feel like, you can't be included because you're doing something different. Like my friends always be like, oh, like, can you have like this? And I also have like, gluten allergies. They're like, can you have this? Like, blah, blah, blah. And they're always asking. And I'm like, no, I totally can. And like, in my experience, like I've been doing this for 5 years. Like it's a bit easier for me to guesstimate and to kind of track on the fly. But when you're new to this, you really need that support and just, openness with, your friends and, maybe some of your family or, whatever, because you can feel that stress and that anxiety when, you are going to your friends for a wine night and there's going to be a cheese board and you're like, how the hell do I even go about tracking this? So maybe I'm just going to cancel because I'm too stressed out. It's like, no, you don't need to. Just have the conversation, be open. Your friends are likely going to be understanding. And if you're not, maybe get new friends because.
Or if they just really give you shit, they're probably a really good friend. Like, girl, you're
that
crazy.
Too.
Make sure you still come. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be a serious thing. And kind of like how you were saying, I love being able to break the barrier. Like, you don't have to say no to those situations and cancel. It's about like, this is your life. This is your fitness life. Mesh them together. You don't have to not go to the family barbecues. You don't have to not like participate in, the PTA meetings or whatever like these people are doing.
Yeah.
It's just about, being open enough that people understand. But yeah, you don't have to give them, a 6-hour monologue on what macros are.
Because they don't care.
Thermogenesis and stuff. They're like, what? Like they care a little, but not that much.
No, they're just like, I was just asking
and like worried about their roots.
Yeah. Like, it's so true. It's so true. And I think, when you first start, you get so like, this is your life and you're like laser focused on everything. And you want to tell people because you're excited. But like, the reality of it is like, people care to a point. So like, share, but like, don't overshare. Cause I've definitely overshared where people just don't give a fuck. And I'm like, oh, wow, that was awkward. Like totally killed the conversation. Like they were asking me a simple question and I just,
Yeah, my husband asked me what he should eat after he lifted. And I just started talking. And 10 minutes later, I like was watching him walk away from me. I was like, but I'm not done.
You're like, I'm still talking.
I have more to say. He's like, bye.
He was like, too much. I'll just, whatever. It's fine.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, this has been so fun. So I had like my list of questions. I'm kind of looking at it right here, and we touched on the few things that I wanted to touch on that I had done wrong. Macro hoarding, hiding things, avoiding social events, that whole black and white thing, and hit on every question that had come through my box. Did we hit on your list of questions?
Yeah, basically I'm looking, I think I basically had the same as you. And one question that I got was kind of more specifically about like how you get into macro tracking, like how, like, what is it? And like, they kind of understood what it was because we went back and forth actually to talk about it. But it was basically like, how do you get into it? Because like you might hear coaches or even us talk about macro tracking, but you're like, what is that? So like, basically what macro tracking is there's 3 macronutrients, and that's what all of your food is made up of. So like protein, carbs, and fats. You probably heard us talking about like saving carbs and fats for like your drinks and stuff. So macro tracking is a way to eat to get to your goal. So whether it's to gain weight or lose weight or maintain where you are, you're eating a certain amount of protein, carbs, and fats based on what your body needs. So it's not something where I recommend like using a macro online calculator, because usually those don't take into consideration your human factors, like, you know, your stress level, your sleep, all of these sorts of things.
Your dieting history.
Exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that as well. And you know, and macro tracking it can be complicated, so it's not something that I suggest you jumping right into. One kind of to get your foot in the door could be, you know, to track your calories. And even if you've never done that, I don't think you're ready for macro tracking. And that's not a diss. I just think that that's the natural progression. I went from calorie counting into macro counting because I had to get into that consistent, you know, logging the food, starting to become aware of, you know, what a serving size was, and all that sort of stuff, because it can get very overwhelming very quickly, and that's not the point of what we do. I feel like you would agree to this. We try to keep it as simple as possible so that you get results, and so that you're able to you get to live your lifestyle and be free, but also, you know, have the body that you want, whether it is gain weight, lose weight, maintain weight, like whatever it is you want, we want to help you get there and keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's one of those where macro tracking can be a great thing, but if you're completely foreign to the concept, it can instantly turn into a negative thing for you, or just too much, overwhelming. So how you kind of tapered in from like calories into macros. Yeah, I have never done macro tracking. Like the first time I worked with a coach and they talked about macros, for the first half of the conversation, I'm thinking we're talking about economics or something. And I'm like, how much money do I owe you? Like I had no idea what they were talking about. Yeah. But I went straight from never counting anything to macro tracking right away. But it was because I was with someone. It's a skill set. I mean, if I wanted to learn how to rock climb, I'm not going to go find a wall and go ham on it. Like I'm going to go learn from someone, maybe do some research. So it's a skill set that can be super effective in a weight loss journey. And it's actually not that hard once you have the basics. But it's just, I really think working with someone who either just teaches it, or if you have a friend that does it and has for a long time, because you're gonna come across questions you're not gonna understand, and sometimes, you know, like if you just meet your calories, screw your macros, and your calories met, we call it a day, great. You need someone to bounce those ideas off of, like how often can I do that, can I ever do that? Like it's very confusing, just like you said, and overwhelming if you have no experience or you have no lifeline.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like if you have nobody to turn to and ask the questions when you don't have experience, it's hard. And it definitely helps to have those people that you can, you know, ask, like whether it's your friends or, you know, people that you know, to ask these questions, because it is easy, but to start implementing it, and you know, there are questions that are going to come up, those can be the things that derail us, because we're like, oh screw it, I have no idea how to figure out this problem, so I'll just say fuck it for the rest of the day. And then you end up having a lot of those days, and that's why people are like, oh, it didn't work for me. It's because like you didn't have the support. Like you need that support. It's like learning like math. Like you need the support when you're learning math. Most people, it comes not super easily to, and you need that extra help. So it's definitely a skill set. I like how you put that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And sometimes, it's wait, for doing it on your own, it's not a lack of motivation.
Sure.
It's just, there's so much ambiguity around what you can and cannot do that you don't know if the work you're putting in is even worth it.
Sure. Yeah.
So goodness, we just got a little heads up. We have under 2 minutes left, because this has been a long one. Wow. I can't believe I hung in for almost an hour. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. So I have a countdown on my screen. I don't know if you can see it.
No, I can't see it. I didn't know
it is like counting down. It's like covering up part of my face. Can you guys even see my face right now? Because where my eyes are like rectangles of numbers. Like, what the hell?
Oh my God. How has it been that long?
All right, so I am so happy we did this. I couldn't agree more. Macro tracking is definitely a skill. And also it's one of those where if you have really specific questions to you, I'm sure you get this all the time. People will ask me really specific questions on Instagram that I don't know you. Yeah. Like, how many grams of carbs do I need? I don't fucking know. Yeah. Like, it's just one of those where, like, we want to help you as much as we can, but questions really, really, really specific to you, we have no clue. Right. Because we don't know anything about you. And so it's one of those where we can only help generalizations, but if you really need specific help, you just need someone on your team.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more with that. It's, you know, it's not as simple as you think, like eat this much. It's like there's so much to consider. So those type of questions are hard to answer because we don't want to just say, we don't want to say, you know, the wrong thing to you because it's so much deeper. And that's why having, you know, someone in your circle, you know, on your team, whatever it is absolutely the best way to go.
I couldn't agree more. We have under 30 seconds. Closing remarks? What do you think?
Yeah, it's just been awesome. And like, I got so many great questions, and like, it just, I feel like to go back over all of those little mistakes we made, it can be very eye-opening to how far you can come from your mistakes.
I agree. This has been wonderful. We have under 10 seconds, so I'm going to close it and hopefully save this, and we'll see if we can get this video posted for all you ladies who didn't catch the whole thing. All right. Bye, guys.